we've got a cracker for you today. We've not just got one, we've not got two, we've not got three, we've got a whole crew, 4 guests in the one podcast from the latest hits when it comes to the movie Persian version. Thank you ever so much for appearing on the show. Welcome, ladies. Great.
So when it sounds like virgin, not version. I love that.
Yeah, it's the British accent. Yeah, I know.
For all the Americans out there, he means version, not virgin.
Version, yes, not the other one.
Let him imagine version.
Yeah, it's getting saucy already. And it's late at night here in London, so it probably reflects the evening. Whereas you guys, you're all already in the Los Angeles Pacific Coast time zone. The film, it's been making a lot of headways, a lot of headlines. Tell us about the story of what the film centers on.
Who wants to do it?
Mariam, that's you. That's you, girl.
It's a story of a young girl in her 20s who's part of a huge family, has 8 brothers, and is returning home after being estranged from her family to find out that there's a family secret that she's about to uncover from her grandmother. And the film takes us on a mother-daughter journey to find out that they're not as different as they think they are, because they've had a lot of problems over the past few years.
It's a story of centering on mother and daughter and Iranian-American culture and family, with some events going on around that. You're the director, aren't you, Mariam, of the film? So what
Sometimes.
So what was the kind of idea behind it? Who actually came up with this? Tell us about the story behind the film origins.
The film's based on my family. It's my family's immigration story to the U.S. And why the hell did my parents want a daughter so badly? That they had 8 sons. And it all started, I had already directed a couple of films and a bunch of TV. And I wanted to get to the roots of why I went into cinema. I had originally left academia and entered cinema post 9/11 to kind of change the narrative around people from our part of the world. And I think when Trump took office, there was a lot of xenophobia and a lot of sentiment that I just didn't feel like reflected the community I was from, growing up in New York as an immigrant. So I thought, I want to just do something about us that's funny and relatable and can break down those barriers. I felt like the U.S. had become very fractured, and this whole concept of who an American was something that I really started to think about when Trump took office, because I think he tried to make folks who were immigrants feel like they weren't American. And I think through the process of making this film, I really like to say this is an American film, because it's so much about what America stands for, which is immigrants who come to the U.S. to forge a new life and all of the trials and tribulations that come with that. It's a radical idea that we're humans. I know.
Yeah.
It's so basic, right? It's, but it's, we've never been represented on the screen in the U.S. as a diaspora, as a community that is both shows the Iran section and shows America in a humorous way. So I figured it's about time. And what more funny than your own family?
Yeah, we had a lot of those headlines when it came to immigrants in terms of US and Trump at that particular moment. I know I had to go to the US myself, and you were looking at checking your passport. Steve, there was any trips that were banned from going to the US or not? We've got 4 of you here, Bella, Leila, Nusa, and yourself, Mariam. How did you get to know of each other? Did you knew each other before this film? How did you all coalesce around this?
I was so differently. Nusa, I met she was playing music at a friend's house years ago. She's an amazing musician. She also did the choreography and the closing song of Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Bella, I'm a huge fan of hers. Like, she had done a film that won Rotterdam, and I was like, who is that woman? And Leila came out of nowhere. I had never met Leila. She auditioned. She's so funny. She's a great comedian. I really wanted a comedian for that role. And I really wanted people that, one of my big things was also people that I felt could not only represent the real people, but give a sense of chemistry and family. Because I think I did a lot of chemistry reads, and these guys really just clicked. I think everyone in our film really, to me, felt like they could be part of an ensemble film. Because although Leila and Nusa are the leads, it really is about 3 generations of women against the tapestry of all these men and all of these different characters. It was important that especially even for the men, even though they have small roles, that they have to feel like they're one family. So I thought with these three ladies, they have so much depth, and they all have such different perspectives of how they came to America or their immigration story. I also thought their own personal stories reflected really well on what I was trying to do with the characters.
Really good insights there. Before we go into the kind of casting decisions, just want to find out more about each one of you. So I'm going to start with Bella, and then I'm going to move on to Leila and Nusa. Tell us more about your respective background, Bella, in terms of your backstory.
Okay. So I live in Berkeley, California. Been living in this house for 43 years. Came because of the revolution. We thought we'll stay for a while and go back to Iran, which we didn't. Here we are. And I, at some point, started getting interested in theater. We had a local theater company, and I got involved, and I got into acting. And then I pursued acting, went to classes, got trained, and really loved it. And I still do. I'm still active and acting. And then film. How did I get into films? I don't know. We had a relative. She was making her first film in late 80s, and it was called Legal Aliens. So I went to LA and we filmed it. It finished, and then they didn't have enough money for the titles and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so after doing that film, I said, I don't want to do film. Film is not for me. I want to continue theater. And I did until the Radio Dreams. I, for some reason, enjoyed that one. That's how Mariam got to know me and found me. That I was hard to. Film is different, but let me tell you, I've been doing theater for 30 some years. I have acted, I have directed, I have done different stories, I have different actions in 2 films. I got so much attention. And then I realized that being in a film, more people will hear you, appreciate you, or dislike you. And for Mariam to tell that story through film, like if it was a theater, it was a play, a few people will come see it and have an opinion. But that film all of a sudden opened up a big world that needs to be seen, a story that needs to be heard. So I have to take my hat to cinema and definitely Mariam, because she really created a family on stage, or as we say, or when we were filming. Whatever she did, we did become that in that short time a family. I really think of Nusa and Leila. I want him to succeed. She did it. She's going to. Oh, they liked it. Or when I watched them on the first screening at Sundance, it was just like breathtaking. Because in film, you don't. In theaters, you see each other's acting because you're acting together. But in the film, I don't know what's happening in film. Anyway, and then so when I saw it on screen, it was just. And so Mariam succeeded in telling her story through us. I hope we did give her what she wanted, mostly.
I love Bella because she was so non-judgmental about this spicy grandmother. And not only non-judgmental, she gave so much flavor and nuance to an older woman's sexuality and just vivaciousness. And it was so much, I was so close to my grandmother. I always feel like Bella is a reincarnated version of my grandmother. It's so special. There's very few people in the world that you meet that you think, wow, they're as special as that person they're playing, or even more special. So I think I felt so connected with each of the actors' personal stories as they brought it into my life story. So they became melded together in some ways.
Yeah. You will not find a mother like this in any Iranian story. The mother that she created. Or grandmother, not mother, grandmother, because they're all stereotyped. And she broke the rules. She went against the grain, and I love that. Who wants to play another old woman that is kind and sad and fuck that? You know.
Bella is like, you know what? Let's go further. I was like, I love you.
Let her feel.
Yeah, and that's what people want. And it's
Yes.
there to be different. There to be different.
Yeah.
And for those of you that
we
are...
are, the way we speak amongst each other is just often not portrayed in cinema. Women have to be likable. They have to be this and that. But it's also important to portray, what it truly is to have these private conversations and to have no boundaries. That when you're a matriarch, you also don't have any more boundaries.
Yeah.
When you're the oldest surviving member. So I wanted to show her power and her presence. It's important to me.
And you can see the presence and you can hear the presence. And for those of you that will catch on YouTube, you can see a beautiful garden as well in the background. Leila, over to you. Tell us more about your backstory. And
Yeah. I grew up in Orlando, Florida. My father's Iranian, my mom's Italian-American. And I started studying acting young. I was in classes and auditioning at a young age, but I was hell-bent on being a lawyer. And so I was in school, hated it. I thought, I'm going to do the traditional thing. My dad wants me to be a lawyer. I'm good at arguing. Might as well give it a shot.
You're
Then-
the wrong woman. Of course you're good at arguing.
Of course. Yeah. Then I dropped out of high school, ended up going a completely different way. I got my GED, started college really young, moved to Colorado when I was 17. Then I dropped out of college and I moved to LA to pursue acting. And I've been doing that ever since. So I always knew I wanted to do something in this industry. It just took different paths to get there. But for the past 5 years, I've been in LA and auditioning, and this movie came around and it was a blessing.
And Leila's the only other fellow East Coaster who can talk as fast as I do, which is always very impressive.
I can talk so
When I
fast.
met her, I was like, oh my God, we're the only two people that could understand each other.
don't worry, Leila. I also did law as a degree and did 3/4 of what's called a legal practice course. And much to my dad's disappointment, him being Iranian, I didn't complete it and entered it into the world of headhunting and recruitment. I think he gets what I do now. But as in the community, if you're not a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer, then what the hell are you? And who are you?
You're a dentist.
Dentist, yeah, that's the other one on that front. And it's fascinating that you've gone into this world of acting. Any particular role models that you have, Leila, that you got to?
There's so many actors that I grew up watching from a young age. It's hard to just pick one, but it's been tough. I feel like growing up, there wasn't many that looked like me or that I'd watch in mainstream movies and television when I would just turn on the TV at home. So doing this and meeting these women, I feel like I have new role models. I look at Bella and just being on set with her and the knowledge she gave me, and she'd make me breakfast in the morning because she knew that I would forget to eat, and it felt like a real family. And I got to watch people who have the same type of DNA as me succeeding in this industry, and they have been for a long time. I'm one of the newer actors who joined, so I got to watch this community, and now I have a big group of incredible Iranian role models.
It's beautiful. And Nusa, tell us more about you. You almost appear like the Charlie's Angels, what we call here, in terms of you got a lot. It strikes me you got really good chemistry and a connection between each other. You can feel it and hear it. But yeah, tell us more about you, your backstory.
Sure. I was born and raised in Tehran, in Iran. I moved here when I was 11 with my family. I grew up around film and cinema because my dad's in the industry. He's a cinematographer in Iran. He has been. So ever since I was a kid, I would go on set. My first actually movie appearance was this Rafshan Bani Atamad's film Nargis. I don't know, Mariam, if you've seen that one. I invited all of my friends to go. Yeah, I had a line too. And I invited all my friends. I think I was in 3rd grade. I invited everyone to come see, but they forgot to tell me that they actually cut my line out. So there was just like one scene of me at a wedding just clapping. Anyway, so that, and my dad shot that film too. But anyway, so I grew up around film and cinema, but it wasn't until way after college where I decided to give it a shot in Hollywood. And my dad, because he's actually been in the industry, although in Iran, it's just the same universal thing, the hardship and all that. So he was definitely a little bit worried at first of this choice, but he says it now.
You came to the States like not that much younger than my mom did.
I was 11. Yes, similar. Yeah, I was 11. But acting decision was way later in life. And yeah, I just fell into film. And I was going to say something and I completely forgot now. Yes, chemistry. Bella, Mariam, Leila. I first met Leila through a Zoom audition thing that we were doing, or like a chemistry test, I think. Mariam, we were doing that. And I remember getting off.
Everyone do chemistry tests.
Yes, we're doing a chemistry test. I was in New York. Anyway, and when it ended, I remember calling Lindsay, the casting director, and Mariam, and I was like, that girl, she's so good. It was the first time I'd seen Leila. I'm like, wow, she's amazing. And the first time I saw Bella, I fell in love with her because we were in Istanbul and we met at a diner. I don't know if you remember this, Bella, but she had her red lipstick and her beautiful long white hair. And she just like this control and confidence. I was like, yes, this is going to be amazing. And all the brothers and everybody. And it was just such a special, exactly what you said. It translated, I believe, on screen too, but it was really like that on set and in between the days, like everyone just connected, and we just knew that we were making and telling an important story, and everyone was on that same page. And because of that, we just had a lot of joy making it.
Every moment that we weren't working, we were together. Like our days off, we would all like the way my actual family has Sunday lunch. We would have Sunday lunch, and then we would hang out at Niusha's apartment. She had a great deck, and we would read the scenes, and we would joke around and dance. And I was also impressed that even on people's days off, they were committed to getting together.
Yeah.
And,
It's like you've got a real strong family unit. And sometimes in the creative industries, it doesn't always work like that. There can be a flickering of tensions here and there. And you find that stories of the main cast members, they're not talking to each other, even though when you see them on screen, they seem to act perfectly to one another. You speak great. There's no accent at all. Did you say you came to the US at 11?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, I put on that accent. I
copied my mom's accent, which is awesome.
I copied her. Yes, I copied her mom. I had some questions, and I would just really listen to her, and also my own mother and cousins who recently came from Iran, because I wanted to make it a subtle accent so it doesn't take too much attention away from what we were saying. But I sent monologues to my mom. I'm like, Mom, just say them back to me. And I would just like, oh, immigrant. Okay. So little things like that.
You come here in the UK or US and stuff a little bit later on, even the most educated, they find it difficult to lose it. It's quite a strong accent, a bit like with Spanish, the same with Italian, same with French. But yeah, I would never have been able to tell that you came at 11 at all. But I came to the UK when I was 7. I left Iran.
But I have that New York accent. I'm so sorry.
You have the New York accent. I think
14 you all sound great. You all sound absolutely great. But it is a challenge, because when I left Iran and living in the Iran-Iraq war period and the revolution, my parents, I don't know what they were thinking of. My dad was 24. My mom was 17. When people were going away from Iran, they decided to fly into it, thinking that things will blow over. And then the revolution came. And to cut a long story short, I came to the UK, couldn't speak a word of English. Now I can't speak a word of Farsi, but I can speak English fully. So I don't know how my brain works. In terms of the film, you've spoken about breaking down barriers, telling the story. Any influences in terms of artists, other films that you had when you were doing this film?
For me?
Yeah.
Of course, like Annie Hall, Woody Allen was a big influence for me. It's like the quintessential New York story his is like of a Jewish family, but I just love the way he creates the tapestry of his neurosis through his family story. And also, obviously, as I mentioned in the film, Martin Scorsese was a huge influence for me. And of course, I watch all types of cinema. I loved Iranian cinema. Each section of the film that's narrated by the different women has a different style. And Leila's section's more like pop, 80s, like sitcom style. And then the grandmother is more like a spaghetti Western. And then the mother's story back in Iran is much more like a classic neorealist Iranian film. So I did gently have an ode to the different types of films that I like in the film, because I wanted the narrator's flavor when they tell the story to be reflected in the type of cinema that I'm, the type of cinema format that I'm using. So there is, even though there's a cohesion, there's a little play with genre within the film.
Got you. Being creatives and the creative process, how did you all take to your part? Did you take to it naturally? What was the challenges of the parts you were dealing with, or the production side? Because nothing ever goes plain sailing, is it? Life's not a rose garden, unfortunately. We all have our own challenges. Talk us a bit through that, Bella.
The challenge was the accent, Shirazi accent. Her family's from Shiraz. I don't know if you know about it. And so they have a very distinguished accent. And I was a little
We
worried.
don't have an accent. You guys have an accent.
What?
I always say, we don't
Yes,
have an
yes,
accent in Shiraz.
yes.
You guys have an accent in Tehran.
No, I don't agree because everybody knows that Shirazi's accent is special, like Esfahani. But anyway, so we had to be able to at least try to speak it that way. And it was a challenge. I tried and I hope I managed. I've been asking, that's what I do. I ask, how was my accent?
Now, I have to tell you, there's so many Shirazis in New York because they all came in the 60s, like with my family. And so many people have come and said how meaningful it was to have a Shirazi accent on the screen because it's not very common. Cinema.
So that was a challenge. Yeah. But and then the communication between your granddaughter, a granddaughter that's raised in America, she's talking, but she loves her grandmother. So I have grandchildren and we talk to each other. And I was trying to see how they see you. How do I see them here as an Iranian grandma and American grandchildren? So I tried to use whatever I had, although my grandchildren are very young, not like Leila. But Leila, when we were rehearsing, the way she behaved and while we were acting together, she gave me permission to become her grandmother, almost, it seems. She used the sentences she would use, or the way she was being kind. It was believable off stage, right? So that gave me permission to talk to her the way I would talk to a person that is my granddaughter, criticize her that way or praise her. Oh, wow, you can cook. If you believe it in that moment, then you say it that way. So it was this give and take, which I think in acting, it's if you have a good partner, good acting comes out of you. And also Mariam allowed us to play with it, I think.
And actually, it's interesting because Bella came to the project a little bit later in the process. And because we kept getting delayed with COVID, like Leila was with the first person cast, and she was with the project for a long time prior to anyone else. So I got to torture Leila a lot. We both live in LA. I would make her play basketball. I would make her do accent training. I would just generally torture her.
It was great.
Through the rehearsal process together. Because I think you were not cast until I had her towards the end, like towards the middle end.
I had another originally.
She had another show that she kept conflicting with us, so we never knew if she was going to actually be our mother. But Leila, we knew from the beginning, so we got to know each other and have lots of full court basketball, where she doesn't play basketball, but we made her play.
I have a son called Nusa.
Really?
Yes.
Yes, we talked about it. Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
I had a son. It was like,
I forgot.
Wow. So
it's amazing.
In the film, what I missed, I told that to Mariam. I would have loved to have scenes with Nusa in the film. I would have loved to.
Same.
You guys have two scenes
I
together.
was hungry for it because the way her acting, her character was, and the grandmother's character, it would have been a gas, as they used to say.
It would have.
Yeah.
We have two scenes, I think, and one you're sleeping. And the other, I just go, Mom! The lunch scene.
It's so good. I love that scene.
About Mariam's dark side and torturing Leila. But how did you take to your part, Leila? Was it like water off a duck's back?
I definitely feel like I got to spend such a long time with this character through the process of my almost year and a half audition process. I got to spend so much time with Mariam. So by the time I was on set, I felt like comfortable in my character Leila's skin. The Farsi was something that was challenging. I'm not fluent. So I spent a lot of time. I had a Farsi coach. Mariam was so grateful with her time. And I think I saw her like 2 or 3 times a week. We'd meet at that coffee shop on La Brea, and she would go over the things. She's like, nope, keep practicing. I'm like, okay. And then I'd have my Farsi teacher come over and So that the basketball, I just go practice dribbling every day just to try to understand. I didn't know how much I was going to be playing. So it wasn't until we got to set that I realized, oh, this is full court basketball with a team that doesn't speak English and thinks we're really playing a basketball game. So that was also a challenge. But no, it was great. I feel like I had such great chemistry with everyone, all the boys. I was living in the same apartment complex with the boys and Bella. So when we weren't filming, we were hanging out and we felt like such a family, to where it never really felt like a challenge. It always was like, if it was a fun challenge, and going to set was always exciting. Yeah.
My God, we were all trying not to get COVID. That was really hard.
Yeah.
Still during COVID.
We all got something, but it wasn't COVID, remember?
We got other
COVID.
Yeah, we all got IVs in our trailer when we were sick.
Every day I didn't know if we were going to be shut down because of COVID. Like, oh my God, please.
Yeah, that must be really challenging.
That was the big challenge too, making sure, because you don't want to be the person that stops production. So
we
just
also
not
had
getting
hundreds
COVID.
of people. It was like we have 105 speaking roles, and then we had hundreds and hundreds of extras. And it's like really amazing that only one person got COVID in our set.
Yeah.
That's staggering. How did this affect you emotionally in terms of doing this film? We've seen so many things that have gone on with Iran, with women life freedom, with the community, everything else. Was there any sense of added pressure to make this right, this film? How did it catch you emotionally being involved in this?
We shot before Women Life Freedom, but Women Life Freedom is an ongoing process of my entire life. I think we were all very aware of that struggle, like historically.
Yeah, I agree. It was just nice timing. It was before, but it was just also so nice because for the first time, when at the height of the Women Life Freedom, we always talked about this, how the global perspective had changed. Finally, non-Iranians were seeing the difference and distinguishing between the regime and Iranian women and Iranian people. And this was just such a beautiful example of that, to have three strong women, Iranian women, tell their story in this way. And we don't get a lot of that. We just don't. To just highlight the strength and resilience and the inner drive of an immigrant woman, let alone an Iranian woman. So that was really nice to thematically. It was like very similar to what the world was witnessing at the time.
But it's funny, we were breaking the mold for foreigners, but I think it's not so much breaking the mold for people within our culture, because we all know how strong Iranian women are. It just was more reflective of our truth.
Exactly.
As opposed to, but I think from the outside, it's breaking the mold. But for us, it was just like, we all know women who are this strong. That's part of our narrative. It's just not one that's been, put into cinema. But it's certainly
exactly
we relate to.
Yeah. Mariam, can they see the film in Iran now?
Oh my God, it's the most downloaded film right now. It's like millions of downloads.
In Iran? Oh,
really? They send me $1 per download.
Suddenly, all of us were getting.
It's pirated. Essentially, it's stolen, which of course, because I guess they can't watch it any other way. But I always think it's funny. It's like you steal something, which is cool. It's flattery. But then you get like a full film review on top of it. Like I've gotten thousands of film sent to me. Mostly good.
Suddenly, all of us were.
Some people are outraged about certain things. I'm like, wow, but it's a free movie. You should really be happy.
Suddenly all of us were getting all these Iranian messages like in Persian, and we're like, what's happening? And then I have a lot of friends and family in Iran, and they're sending me
Farsi.
Yeah, they're sending me screenshots.
One day they've dubbed our whole movie into Farsi. It's pretty amazing. In the cinemas on February 2nd. So we're coming, all of us are coming on February 1st for the gala, for the release. But yes, they keep pirating it and taking it down. So that's the way of the Iranian market. Yeah. But it's so interesting about that. Just like my first film, which was a huge black market DVD. I seem to be very popular on the black market. So I have a future. Send me $1 per view.
$1. Yeah, absolutely. Doing these films, it not just takes a collective effort, meeting of minds, relationship, talent. It also requires resources. Talk us a bit through the funding side of this in supporting the film. Was that challenging?
It's strangely, I have struggled so much to make other films. This film was financed by some pretty well-known producers in terms of the development of the script. So I was able to develop it for a year. I did 20 drafts. And then when they originally were going to finance it, but then they ended up closing shop. And we took it to a financier, and we took it to them on a Friday. And on Monday, they said yes. It was just the most unusual experience of my career, because normally you get 5,000 no's. But we just happened to go to the right place at the right time. And they supported me because it took another almost 2 years to make the film because of COVID. But they never pulled I thought at any minute they're going to pull the financing, but they never did. So we were very lucky. This was financed by Sony Worldwide on the lower budget side. But yeah, but we were really lucky, honestly, because the 3 people that chose the film, the heads were a gay guy from like the Midwest, a Jewish married guy with kids from Long Island, and a young unmarried girl who's Indian-American from LA. And they all said it was their story. And they all felt like they were reflected in the film. And they just, before they even met me, they said yes. I was like, is this a joke? Do they want Angelina Jolie to play Leila? They were like, no, there was like no stipulations on cast. I was completely shocked. It's very unusual in our industry. Usually when they finance you, you have to have this famous person or that person. But they didn't, they were really taken with the story. It was very moving.
People yearn connection and to feel a sense of being connected. And when you're moved by something, then you take action. You want to do something. It has to touch you.
Sometimes when you're moved, but also you've never seen it. It feels familiar, but you haven't seen this specific thing. I think that's the thing that we strive for in cinema, to connect with people so it feels like a connection and something similar, but in some sort of format that they haven't seen. Also, because the format is also very unusual, right? The structure is an extremely non-traditional way of telling a story. That made it even more shocking for me. But I think they were interested in that. They were interested in my way of storytelling. They were surprised by it. The word used was surprised. They were very moved and surprised by the script.
Come to that word of surprises for you all, and you choose whichever order you want to take this question. What has surprised you about this and your career thus far in terms of your particular journeys? And who wants to take that question first?
I'll be right back. You guys take that question. I'm listening.
Director, ordered.
I can go first. I don't know if surprise is the right word, because when I read the script, I knew it was special and I connected to it, and I couldn't believe that finally something like this was being told or made. But nevertheless, you can make something and you can feel that it's executed perfectly, but then it doesn't get the response that you hope for. So you never know. I never expect anything. The first time I saw the film was at Sundance. I'd not seen anything, so I had no idea what it was going to be like. Leila was sitting next to me. We were holding hands. We were sweating and hyperventilating, and it was a packed theater. And again, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but it was just so beautiful to see, and mostly from all walks of life, non-Iranian at Sundance, just connecting with what they're seeing and being so engaged, crying, clapping, laughing. And as I said, I grew up in Iran, and I would dance to all these songs that you hear, Persian pop music and from the 80s. These are my songs that I listened to as a kid in Iran. So to see that on the big screen, for example, the wedding sequence, the dance sequence, and just seeing the audience connecting to it and moving to it and then getting emotional, all these things was just so beautiful and something that we hadn't witnessed and been so hungry for as an Iranian-American in this industry. So that was the biggest and most beautiful surprise. I love that it resonated with so many people.
In your career? Before I go to Leila?
I think 10 years ago, maybe, I wasn't as hopeful as the direction of this industry where it was headed. And I felt this distance because I constantly felt I was put in this like reductive state of just representing this idea of a nationality and things like that. And I'm pleasantly surprised that the industry is shifting, it's changing. And with that, I'm more excited to just tell more and more stories like the Persian version. And I think the nice surprise is that people are willing to and wanting to hear it now. And so I'm excited about where my career is going with this sort of shift present.
In terms of the project, I think the biggest surprise for me was I first taped for this in 2019. It was like one of the second auditions I had got from my agents when I signed with them. And when Mariam DM'd me to hop on a call with her, she'd sent me some other sides from the movie, but I hadn't gotten the script yet. So I was just blindly doing readings and readings with her. And then when I got the script, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I was not expecting it to be that one. I read it and I was laughing and I was crying. And I was like, okay, now as many times as she wants to play basketball with me, I'm going to play. I really want this part.
You're like, finally, you're signing up for the basketball.
The only time I'll thank you for the basketball. But yeah, in my career, everything that Nusa said, I feel like it's a challenging thing because you get breakdowns. And a lot of the times it's either 100 different ethnicities crammed into one breakdown, and it's one person's going to get that part. And I think having a movie like this in such a mainstream light, it's showing that there's other stories that matter. There should be more than one token ethnic card in each project. And I think the more I've been auditioning, the more I see that things are changing, and I hope for more change in the future. But I think just seeing a movie like this be made in this day and age is a surprise and makes me hopeful for the future.
Yeah, beautiful. Bella.
For me, the surprising part was I have a lot of people that I go to movies. We go to movies together. We talk movies and blah, blah, blah. And I thought some of them would not like this film. And this big surprise was most of them liked it. Like I was sure, certain, like they will hate it. And they liked it. And I was wondering why. And there's so much about Iranian in this film, Iranian-Americans, but it's told through a comic way. It's comedy, and it's acceptable. If it was serious, if it was dramatic, I don't think it would have resonated as much as it does, because it gives you ability to laugh at yourself. And by laughing and looking at yourself, you understand it better. So that was the surprise, that when I finished, I decided in our theater to do a play, and it was a very serious matter. It's about two couples in Iran that are different from each other. If you are from Iran, you would know there's some pro-government, some are very European. So they're arguing about each other. And it's a very serious matter. But we turned it into a comedy, and it worked again. So this comedy approach, it was the surprising thing for me, if you were talking surprise. So I was surprised that I liked it.
People were dancing at Sundance in the aisles, all these white people. All these like Americans were dancing with the film at the closing credits. That was surprising to me.
It's very watchable. It's not just funny and cute. It has a lot to say too.
Yeah. Yes, there's a lot of, I like to juxtapose humor and some tears. It makes it more intense.
That's a really great combo. As we come towards the end of the podcast, final two questions for you all. What's your thoughts on Iranian cinema, and would you all one day love to do a movie in Iran, if you could have that kind of magic wand?
I've already done it. I can't say that. I've already made a film in Iran. Darn.
Mariam's already done it.
I'm out. The Color of Love was my first feature documentary. But I have to leave in a second, but I want to say one thing that surprised me about making this film before I sign off. And I think this is really important for me as an artist. I think I made my first film, Rang Ishq, in Iran. I made that with a small crew. It played all over the world. It was a feature documentary about my family. I made a feature film also that won Sundance called Circumstance. And that was made in a way that's very similar to this film. It was made like a community. We became family in that film. All of the actors, they're still in touch. They even lived together for years after, and we're really big supporters of each other in the industry. And then I went more the Hollywood route, and I did another film. I did a lot of TV, and I was told in the industry that there's a certain way to do something, quote unquote, professional way to do something. And I found that was so antithesis to creating a piece of art. I wanted to get back to my roots. When I was choosing a producer for this film, I chose Ann Carey. I said, I want to get back to the punk rock me. I want to get back to the person that doesn't take no for an answer, that is innovative and doesn't follow the rules. I want to break every rule when I make this film. I want to do all the things I did with my first film. And I want to know why I make films. And I think I realized there's no way to make something. As an artist, you have to surround yourself around people that are like-minded. I'm so fortunate and surprised and delighted. That is the way you can move forward in your career. I think I had been distracted by the right way to do things in Hollywood. And I think we have to find our way to do things in Hollywood, our voices, our stories, but more than anything, our process. I think process is such a big part of a film. And I think it gets into the DNA of the film, and it's what people respond to. Beyond all of the amazing things that go into making a film, of course, a good script, good actors, great cinematography, amazing music, Rostam Batmanglij in the music. But I think people feel that when they sign on to something, and it permeates the work. And I think I bought into the Kool-Aid a bit too much about the right way to do things. And now I feel like we're going to find our way to do things. And that's going to be my mantra moving forward.
Yeah, I just love that. I love the way you put it. Beautiful. And yourselves, Bella, Leila, Nusa.
For me, I would love to see an Iranian film made in Iran that it deals with all the Iranians that they left. I have this fantasy that they will go back or write a story or a script that they're back in Iran. Because the things I saw, seeing all those actors, all those brothers, they came from different, like you're from England, from Austria, or I don't know, Holland or Texas. There were all these Iranians that were raised in different country, different culture, but they were still Iranian, and we came together. So I would like to see them in Iran acting with Iranian actors, telling their stories together, and see how different we have become. We were different than a lot of the Iranians that do live in Iran and are our age. And to have a story between us, that's I would love to see.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Iran yet, so I want to be able to go, and yeah, that would be cool to do one day. But
Yeah.
to go in general is something that I would love to do and see. My dad we still have a lot of family there and stuff, so I would love to be able to go and just see where I'm from.
I shot a film, The Night, it's called, that it was produced and shot here in LA, but it was the first film post the revolution that got a theatrical distribution in Iran as well. So that was crazy for me to see the poster and my face on the marquees in Iran, in Tehran, places that I grew up, and I would go to the cinema. So that was amazing. But it was the height of COVID, and not a lot of people got a chance to see it. And I'm obviously very closely tied to Iranian cinema because of my dad, but I hope for the day that, and there's such wonderful Iranian artists that, with all the limitations and the censorship, are able to convey such creativity and emotion. So that's phenomenal in its own right. But I do wish for the day where the artists can just make and tell their stories without any limitations. And that's the day that I would love to also, I'm sure, like all of you, be in Iran and do that.
Yeah.
True. Final question. If you could give one piece of advice for anyone wanting to enter the world of acting and the arts, what would it be?
I think so. What I tell everybody, because what worked for me is I used to have a plan B for a majority of when I first started, thinking, if this doesn't work out, then I can do this and I can do this. And was constantly in the state of having a plan B. And I think, and having a deadline for myself, that if I don't make it by this, whatever that means, make it by this age, then I should do this and go towards my plan B. But I think the best advice I could give is, if you really want to be in this industry and stay in it, first of all, you have to have such passion for it, because you're going to get rejected way more than accepted. But it's to remove the deadline for yourself. And once I did, that anxiety just diminished, and I don't have a set date of when I'm supposed to make it. This is it. And a lot of more doors opened for me once I did that. And I just accepted. And my dad asked me this once, if you're 80 and you get your big break, whatever that is, would you be in a regretful state that you wasted all your time? And I said, absolutely not. And then once I said that, I was like, okay, no more plan B. And I removed that deadline, and I feel like a lot more doors open for me.
Yeah. I would just say, don't give up, keep going. A lot of no's, but you never know which one it's going to be. So just keep going.
Stand your ground. Don't change because of this and that. Just believe in what you want and what you can do. It will happen sooner or later. 80s, I don't know, 1970s. But just stand your ground. Don't change because of all the bullshit. On that word.
Love it.
Amazing Iranian lionesses and 4 with Mariam. And it's true, never put an expiry date on you. in the end. Never put an expiry date on you. I want to thank you so much. Khayli Mamoon, with my little bit of fast. And really enjoyed it. For all of you out there listening, the film Persian version. Speak properly at this time of night. Freudian slip from the beginning of this podcast. Do catch it. Do watch it. It's a great movie. And do watch out for the cast. Leila Mohammadi, Bella Warder, and Nusa Noor, and Mariam, the director. Thank you ever so much for appearing on Successful Iranians.
Thank you for having us.
Take care. Bye, girls.
Bye.